Duke University has settled its litigation against its, former quarterback, Darian Mensah. May it please the audience, I'm Rich Schoenstein. This is So Sue Me. This is just a special update of an episode I did last week talking about this litigation between Duke University and its quarterback. You will recall that Duke brought an action in the state of North Carolina, General Court of Justice, Superior Court Division, County of Durham, against Darian Mensah, seeking to enforce a contract between Duke and Mensah, which was entered into when Mensah transferred over to Duke from another university before last year. It was supposed to run through the end of this calendar year, 2026. Apparently, Mensah was going to get paid in the neighborhood of $4 million a year to be Duke's quarterback. He had a successful season last season, but then he entered the transfer portal. And when he went to enter the transfer portal, Duke University sued him. So last week, what happened is they went to court, and the court entered a temporary restraining order, not quite as broad as Duke wanted. They wouldn't prevent Mensah from going into the transfer portal, which is where these college football players go where they want to move from one school to another. They have to go into the transfer portal where they can supposedly be selected by another school. A lot of times they have deals before they even go into the portal, and it sure sounds like in this case the quarterback had a deal to go to the University of Miami to replace Carson Beck, who was famously intercepted in losing the national championship for Miami this year. Terrible interception at the end of the game thrown by Carson Beck, and now Miami needs another quarterback, so they reach out to get Darian Mensah from Duke. Anyway, the court said he can go in the transfer portal, but he can't sign with another school. They put a temporary restraining order in place, precluding him basically from signing with another school, enrolling in another school, playing football for another school. And originally they set a preliminary injunction hearing, and that's where the court would have considered the matter in greater detail, maybe even heard evidence. They set that hearing for February 2nd. Last week, Mensah's lawyers went back to the court and said, please, 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 will you either vacate this TRO or at least hear the preliminary injunction motion sooner, because he has enrollment deadlines. He's not going to be able to go to another school if he doesn't tell him yes or no. I suspect really what they meant is he's got to give Miami an answer or they're going to have to move on. The judge didn't vacate the TRO, kept the TRO in place. They moved the preliminary injunction hearing a little bit up. I think they moved it to January 29th instead of February 2nd, but there was still a problem for Mensah, so I assume his people and Duke University's representatives had discussions to try to settle the matter. And settle the matter is exactly what they did. It was reported today that Duke reached a legal settlement with quarterback Darian Mensah. He's now permitted to transfer. We're already hearing reports of him at Miami, probably going to announce very soon that he's transferring to the school. What we don't know, I haven't been able to determine on the internet, are the other details of the settlement. Now, Duke had sued Mensah for money damages, but what it really wanted purportedly was to enforce the contract. Duke was saying he couldn't play for anybody else in 2026 because he had agreed to this 2-year term commitment to Duke University. And I thought Duke had a very strong case. Remember, I know this is a college student. I know this is football. I know this is about education, but these are big boy contracts. These are adult agreements. We've decided that we can and should pay college students who are playing football for their services. So this was an adult entering a services contract where he was going to be paid $4 million a year. And one of the terms was exclusivity. And you see that kind of thing all the time in other contexts, be it entertainment or other fields, where contracts are entered for personal services. They have a set term, they have a set duration, and there's exclusivity during that term. And generally speaking, those provisions will be enforced because they're a big part of the contract. So I thought Duke had a good case to go into court and enforce the contract. But here's the problem. I don't think it would have gotten Duke what it wanted, right? Duke couldn't make Mensah play football for them. It could only, in theory, stop him from playing football for another school. That's of limited value to Duke, right? Duke doesn't get an advantage of having a good player on its team, doesn't really get an advantage of keeping a player from another team. That's not a huge advantage. And probably has an image problem if it's entering into legal battles with its football recruits. I'm not sure that's the greatest thing for recruiting. So enforcing the contract, while I thought there was a valid legal argument, I didn't think was going to get Duke a lot. Oh, and by the way, there would have been a good argument that if Duke enforced that contract, it was going to have to pay Mensah whether or not he actually played football at Duke. So that would have been problematic. It could have been out another $4 million. I gather that counts somehow against the university and the way the NCAA looks at all these payments. So that might have been an issue, but it could have been problematic for Duke. Can't force him to play, have to spend another $4 million, irritate other recruits. All of those things might have been negative. So I assume Duke got a bag of money out of this, one way or another, either through Mensah or through Miami or through some intermediary who made a payment. I don't think that part of the settlement is public now. I don't know if it will be. Ordinarily, you don't know, but in this world of college football and rumors and leaks, we may find out. But I assume Duke got a bag of money. Mensah got his papers that he can leave and he can go transfer. And Miami got what it wanted, which is a new quarterback to take yet another shot at the national championship. And we'll see how they do in that regard. I'm a little bit disappointed because I wanted to see how this was going to play out. I wanted to see if the court was actually going to enforce that contract on its terms or if Mensah's lawyers were going to be able to argue a way around it. I was interested in that as a legal argument, as a philosophical argument, as a college football fan, I was interested in it. But that is what happens in civil litigation. 95% of the time, these cases go away, they settle, they get resolved on the merits. Very few civil cases go to trial. The great majority of them get resolved by some sort of settlement. And if it's a good settlement, both sides are a little bit unhappy. I don't know if that's true here or not. But the Duke litigation against its ex-quarterback is over. The quarterback goes on to play another day, and so does Duke. And we will go on to come back another day with some more analysis of civil matters or other interesting legal proceedings. Hope to see you soon. For now, we are adjourned.